So, playing this riff fingerstyle brings mainly two very important concepts to mind. The first is free stroke sound, which is such a huge general topic, but this is just such a great opportunity to think about those things and practice your free stroke sound that I want to mention a few things about it. The second is a concept called preserving enthusiasm, which um, I first heard talked about by a fantastic guitarist named David Russell. So I'll get to that in a second. Um, so free stroke sound. So if you're a classical guitarist or even like a steel string guitarist, like a Tommy Emmanuel, style type guy or whatever, probably the most important sound that you make is your free stroke sound. Okay, that's like your general pluck, if you will. Okay, and that sound. Um, I don't know. It might more than anything else sum up who you are as an artist. Everything kind of does, but if you had to pick one thing and say what's the most important, it's probably the sound you're going to use the most when you play your instrument. And you're going to use a bunch of different sounds, right? But cultivating your free stroke sound is, I would recommend it being one of your most important things that you think about, one of your main goals as a player in terms of improving it, developing it, finding new things to add to it. It's your voice as a guitarist, so it's just so important. Now, I can't really say, use this to make it a brighter sound, or, use it to make a fuller sound, or use it to combine the two better, because that's just for you to decide. You hear so many different players use so many different sounds, and so many great players. So I can't say which type of sound you should have, but studying the sound that you make is so important. And if you really want to sit down and do some diligent study, do some improvement on your sound, okay, I wouldn't use, maybe first thing, I wouldn't use your guitar concerto that you're learning at the moment, okay, because that's probably pretty complicated. I would use something very simple, something very straightforward, and something that you know extremely well. When I say the word simple in this context, it's nothing but a compliment. I like things that are simple. I don't like things that are complicated. I like things that are simple, straightforward, and they just make so much sense that you don't even have to think about it, okay? So that's how this passage is to me. Of course, I learned it when I was maybe 14 or 15 or so. So I've been playing it for a while. But it's simple enough that you can get it down. And then if you want to focus on, making a note, think about the first note of this passage. Okay, you're going to play it with your thumb. And use that opportunity to study your thumb sound, okay? If you get a really nice sound right off the bat, you're off to a good start. That first arpeggio, okay? Start there, just that first arpeggio, and when you find something that you like, you can apply it to the rest of the passage. But it's a little bit more involved than just maybe doing open strings, which is still beneficial, right? I do a lot of open string stuff, but if you need some kind of melody, something to pull you through, something you like, okay, this is great for that. I really didn't want to talk about this too much, but a couple more things are coming to mind. This passage has such a nice flow. Okay, with the chord changes, they go up the chords, go to the next one. If you're gonna play this riff, go with that. Okay, as the notes go up, you yourself go up. Oops. And now we're back to the start. Okay, work on your flow. Sorry, I'm screwing it up. Work on your flow, playing it as a whole passage, so that when it starts over, your listener feels like you said something and now you're indeed starting over. You're not just playing a bunch of chords or arpeggios. And that means dynamic control, okay? Like this arpeggio, probably these notes in the first string, you're gonna want to be the loudest, okay? You want to grow there. That high G, okay, you've really arrived somewhere. And then after that, you kind of come down gradually, right? So you can work on the flow and on your own interpretation of the flow. This is just how I hear it. But these chords go so well together, you can easily come up with some way that you think they flow and make sense, okay, very easily. So study that. You can get your sound in place. You want to work on it musically. Study playing it. I would say as pretty as you can. This is a great opportunity to do that. You wouldn't think of Metallica as like a pretty band. They're maybe not even this passage is like pretty. But if you can make it sound as pretty as you can, you're not going to change the notes. I think it comes across very well. Develops your skills as a musician, okay? The other thing I certainly wouldn't neglect is the bass line. After studying this passage, to me, the bass is kind of what drives the whole thing. You remember when I said, let your listener know, when you've said something and now you're starting over, right? To me, the bass kind of drives that. There's not really melody here that's like consistently continuous to pull us along. So we've got to find something else that moves and that's, maybe most interesting. These are chords, they're nice, but how do we prioritize them? How do we show what's important? I think the bass can help you with that a lot. So don't pound on it too much, but I would definitely study bringing it out with your plucking hand. And that'll come in handy for your plucking hand technique. I mean, doing bass stuff with the thumb, you're going to do that all the time. So this is a great opportunity to study that. Sometimes it's easier to focus on the higher notes, like this. We know that's super important. Don't forget to study what's underneath, and even prioritize it maybe a little bit more than you think, okay? It's really good for study, even if you end up keeping the bass in the background. Okay, so that's free stroke stuff. I love playing this passage for studying free stroke sound. The second thing is a concept that I heard talked about by one of the best guitarists in the world. His name is David Russell. If you've never heard David Russell, it's spelled just like it sounds. I'd recommend him to really anybody, certainly any musician to listen to. I'll put some links in the information so that you can easily find a video of his playing. But to quickly tell you about him, he's one of the very most well-known classical guitarists. He's toured the world playing concerts and teaching for like decades, 40 plus years, I'm not really sure. Just forever. And when you hear him play a concert, it just, he's one of those players where you just can't imagine that there's anything that he can't play, and that there's anything that he can't play and make sound just so simple and beautiful, right? He's incredible. He has this YouTube video. It's on somebody else's channel, but it's him talking about a concept that he calls preserving enthusiasm. And I think this is so important and something I try to make sure everybody that I work with is aware of, because it's a legitimate situation that you run into. Okay, so in his video, Preserving Enthusiasm, he talks about when you find yourself kind of up against a wall, or lacking confidence, or you're working on a new hard piece, or you're trying to figure out something that's new and difficult, and you kind of you're in a tough spot of feeling like you're not a good player, and maybe you'll never accomplish these things you're trying to accomplish. He says have at least 2 or 3 pieces that he recommends be simple, easy for you to play, pieces you've played for a long time. And he says probably, beautiful sounding pieces. And he says, if you're feeling like this, put aside this new project, this difficult work that's cut out for you, and go back to these simple pieces. Play them and enjoy them, and put yourself in that mindset. Remind yourself why you love the guitar, why you love music. Remind yourself of good sounds that you can make. Remind yourself of the kind of player you are, because you've forgotten that working on the new stuff that you feel like you can't accomplish right now. And he calls it preserving enthusiasm. And it's so great that someone like him would talk about this, because he's also admitting, like, yeah, this is what I do. I mean, again, when you hear him play, you don't imagine he has any struggles on the instrument, but he's a human, so he no doubt does. He no doubt has good and bad days, and he's saying, when I have a bad day, when I'm doing something that I'm not sure if I can end up doing, here's what I do. I go back, remind myself I love playing the guitar, I love playing this music, and kind of refresh, and then when you're ready, you can hit the ground running, hopefully with some new energy, some new confidence on your project. So this is something I think is super important. If you're watching this video about, playing Master of Puppets on fingerstyle guitar, chances are pretty good that this passage could be a preserving enthusiasm type piece for you. I think the chances are high that if you're doing work, at times you will feel discouraged. You will look at other players and say, why can't I play like them? Oh my God, it's so easy for them. How come it's so difficult for me? Or you're just working on something that you don't have the skills to play yet, for whatever reason. Okay, use this passage to get away from those mindsets, to preserve your enthusiasm, to not put any pressure on yourself when you play it. Okay, even if you make a mistake, right? No big deal. If you missed this trill at the top, I've missed that, a million times. Missed it for probably like 12 years before I finally, figured out how to do it right. So that's a lot of misses. But you don't have any pressure on yourself to play a certain type of way. You can just enjoy the music that you're making. If this isn't a passage that you feel like you can do that, then find a piece or find a passage where it really hits home with you, and you say, I know this song. Probably having it memorized is a good idea, and I can just sit in my space with my instrument and just play it and just enjoy playing. I hear from a lot of people who, basically express they have a lot of anxious, um, uncomfortable feelings about when they play their instrument. So if you're going to exercise, David Russell's concept of preserving enthusiasm, see how far away you can get from those feelings. Anxiety, uncomfortable, accept who you are, do the best you can do, and there's not anything else that can be asked of you to do, really, than that. So I think it's super important. Use this piece, Master Puppets, this B section phrase. It's one of the pieces that I come back to and use for this. So I think it works very well for that. If not, find 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces where you're like, yep, these are my pieces. These are the ones that I come back to, and I could do it for years. I love these pieces; they never get old, and I can exercise, preserving enthusiasm.